Hello, I'm Thomas Drought, producer of Equal Streets Pioneer Valley. 3 cities in the Pioneer Valley, Easthampton, Northampton, and Greenfield, all have plans for a Main Street redesign in the coming years. These projects are often met with a healthy amount of fear and skepticism from the residents of these cities and towns about to embark on these kinds of projects. Although the information is available from the State Transportation Agency, the city, and the design firm, there's often a lot of disinformation and misinformation as well, which leads to confusion from community members. With that in mind, this video series is intended to shed an informed and positive light on these projects and the field of urban planning and design with a focus on multimodal transportation, revitalization, a safer and more equitable downtown, and building for the future, which are just some of the goals of these redesign projects. The series presents industry big thinkers, city planners, and local advocates who share their informed, pragmatic optimism for the changes on the horizon. It begins with Northampton's Main Street redesign, called Picture Main Street, because it's the first of 3 cities to get started in early 2025. I spoke with Northampton residents this past summer on Strong Avenue with an introductory series called Conversations on Strong, filmed on Strong Avenue next to Familiar's Cafe in downtown Northampton. This series is produced voluntarily and with no affiliation to any city administration and completely independent as a community producer. These interviews were posted on the Equal Streets Pioneer Valley Facebook group page, which I invite you to visit. The interviews have been edited together for 3 half-hour presentations. Here's show number 1.
I was able-bodied for most of my life and then have transitioned to mobility devices, and I got my wheelchair about 3 years ago. And I'm in my early 50s. I have seen different sides of living. And so now being a wheelchair user and having to navigate and figure out everyday living using a wheelchair and how that changes absolutely everything. Navigating the downtown is very, very, very difficult. Sometimes dangerous, treacherous.
Kind of big crack here, so I'm going to go at an angle. This is bad. Another one at an angle. This curb cut needs some attention. So I'm going to try to just go get my wheels in between, go over top of the big cracks.
So Picture Main Street, I'm really excited about it and I'm hopeful about it for a few different reasons. So one, the curb cuts will be new. Right now, some of the curb cuts, I can't go down them safely even with someone behind me holding me. Like, they're so steep. So that curb cut is tricky. It's pretty steep. And then crossing the street in a mobility device, being down low with the traffic, I don't do that, right? So I'm always with someone who is able-bodied, who can be seen safely by the traffic. And I often don't come to the downtown independently because it is not very navigable in its current state. And so part of the redesign is shortening the crosswalk, so shortening the distance that we have to travel to get across the street. That the current length on Main Street is so long. Right now, when I drive through the downtown, I see people of all abilities, regardless, kind of hesitant at the edge of the crosswalk and waiting to cross and checking and making sure it's safe. And it is not set up to be a place where people come. It's not set up to be this inviting, let's sit down and enjoy our downtown, right? It's set up for the cars to drive through, to get here quickly or to pass through quickly. The stores are amazing, the restaurants are amazing, but it's not overall inviting to people to come and spend time and relax, right? It's you have to be kind of on, right? Like a high energy, attentive Yeah, it's not built with our best interest in mind, right? It's built for speed. It's built for efficiency for vehicles. Maybe that's the focus, and so let's turn that and have it be a space where people can meet and relax and unwind and actually go into the stores leisurely and go into the restaurants leisurely and really kind of lower stress and enjoy the space. So I'm really excited for the disability community. Hi. Anyone who uses any kind of mobility device, to have safer sidewalks along with crosswalks, right? So the sidewalks are going to be wider. They will be new, which means the cracks will disappear. The redesign will make the downtown much more navigable for people who use mobility devices and more effective, more usable for the entire population, whether you have a disability or not. Woo! One of the things about the design I'm also excited about in terms of for the disability community, the accessible parking spots are going to be varied. So the kinds of parking spots will change. So right now we just have pull-in parking. So there will be pull-in parking with space on one side or another side, and there will also be just parallel parking for accessible spots, which matters greatly. So depending on the device you use and how it comes out of your vehicle, you need a different kind of parking spot to get out safely. Like right now, I use four-arm crutches, and I get around to the back of my car where I get my wheelchair out. I would never do that in the pull-in, head-in parking. I'm not going to get my wheelchair out of the back of my car with traffic going by and sit down low in a wheelchair with traffic going by. So it's really important to have different kinds of accessible parking. In the Main Street redesign, this gets leveled out somehow. This is a crack here, so I'm gonna go slowly. Ooh, and I'm gonna turn my motor on just to get me up easily. So my focus is really down on the sidewalk to see what obstacles are in front of me. So this is a little steep, with a little bump. And people who sometimes, I have to make sure that they see me coming. Sometimes people are in conversation or just spacing out. So I'm just doing my chair manually, and as you can see, it's slow going. I have both understanding for people who are resisting the change, because it is hard. Change is hard. I resisted having to start using mobility devices, so I get it, kind of fighting that and not wanting it and, being angry about change. And I also, there's part of me that feels like, hey, we got to do this. It's not an option. I mean, the climate crisis is it is the issue of our time. The redesign, it's fundamentally important. It is about humans responding appropriately to reality of what's going on with our climate catastrophe. And so we have to change the way we're planning cities, the way we're planning roads and infrastructure. Our thinking has to change, and then our planning and our funding, what we prioritize, what gets funded has to change. We have to do everything we can now, right, to slow the carbon, stop the carbon, and it means changing our behaviors. And behavior change is really hard. I get that. Yeah, it's big, and yeah, it can be hard. And what are you going to do with that? Right? Like, and this is our lives. What are we doing with our lives? What are we doing with our city? What are we doing with our downtown? How are we supporting each other? How are we connecting with each other? You know, what really matters? That, I think those are the things that matter.
Tricky, so I'm gonna go sideways. There we go.
I am trying to live my best life in a wheelchair. And I'm, you know, there's so much that you can live, right? There's like, life is full in a wheelchair, and life will be full with the redesign, right? And so it's like, hey, this is actually an amazing thing. So get on board and be supportive and get behind it and see how you can contribute and see how you can be a part of it and see how you can support the businesses during the construction. And right, instead of resisting, see how you can give energy to it and support it.
What motivated me to learn about this, and I did learn about it as much as I could, which isn't complete by any means, but I did delve into it. Well, it's a big issue in Northampton. I care about this town. I've lived here since 1969. I feel it's my town as much as anyone else's, and so I learned what I can about it. 2 years ago, I wrote a letter against Picture Main Street because it was pitched as something that would bring many bikes to town and very few cars, and I thought that was fantasy. So in my letter, that's what I said, basically. But then I learned more about the project, and the more I learned, the more I liked the project. One big issue for me, a reason why at first I was against it, was the money. Because if we have money in Northampton, we should spend it on schools, not Picture Main Street or anything else. Not a resilience hub, but schools. However, this money is a grant from the Department of Transportation, and the DOT is not in the habit of saying, oh, you'd rather use it for schools? Fine, go ahead, spend it on schools. They're not going to do that. So the money can only be used for fix Main Street. Fix Main Street. Well, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But I then realized, looking at Department of Transportation statements, that it is broke. 2 years later, as the issue is still bubbling up in the next election, in a way, I actually did some work on it, began to learn some things which changed my mind completely. But the more you learn about Main Street, you realize that, as I said, it is broke. One reason is because the traffic lanes are confusing. Should I be in the right lane, the left lane? Oh, wait a minute, the left lane turns left. No, I should be in the right lane. And this, in actual fact, not in theory, has led to accidents. And in fact, again, DOT, we have among the highest accident rate in the center of town than any other town in the Commonwealth. That was very impressive. I mean, these are hard facts. I don't think DOT makes them up. And also, DOT is objective. They have no axe to grind. So that's what they found. Angled parking is another issue that is related to danger. It's dangerous. And that's why, in fact, most cities in the United States have parallel parking, not angled parking.
There's also the cyclists and the cars, separation of those two.
Yes.
Bill, and what do you think about that?
It's obvious that when you clearly separate bike lane from car lane, you're avoiding possible accidents, and I think real accidents between cars and bikes. At the moment, the bike lanes are not clearly separated or even defined on Main Street. Are there bike lanes on Main Street? No, there aren't even. So that's a mess. And think of the length of sewers that are under Main Street and how old they are. I know they're decades old, but for all I know, they're 100 years old or more. You really need to fix that fast. You don't want garbage water bubbling up on Main Street and flooding the street and stinking the whole town up. It would turn people away, visitors away from Northampton permanently, probably. So that has to be fixed. And while we're doing that, well, why not take advantage of it to fix Main Street, which does, as I said, really need to be fixed. And so we got this huge pot of money from the Department of Transportation just for that, and also federal funds. Good. It's a bit of luck, not luck, maybe skill on the part of the administration, in fact, in getting it. But we did get a huge grant from the DOT. Northampton also got a grant, I think it was $25,000, for the POP, Pardon Our Progress program. Frankly, I don't know what's in that program, but I do know that there are all kinds of ways of supporting local businesses while this is done. Yeah, sure, well, I hope people will support it. I can't say much more about that. I've certainly talked enough about why the complaints I hear are, let's say, ill-founded, and I'm being very polite, and that's about all I can do. I hope the project goes through.
This is Main Street in Northampton. One of the things you'll notice right away, or maybe not, is that there's no telephone poles downtown. That's because all the infrastructure that would be carried on the telephone poles is buried under Main Street to keep it safe and protected. But that was buried a long time ago in a piecemeal fashion. One of the criticisms of Picture Main Street is that the construction process is going to be disruptive. But there's going to be construction no matter what we do. When you're on Main Street in Northampton, take a look around you and see markings like this, or scars like this. The reason that these markings are here is to either prepare for construction or they're evidence of construction that has already happened. The whole street is a series of patches. Every one of these patches represents construction and a disruption in traffic for the city. Picture Main Street will consolidate all of those construction projects into one fully organized project. The project is going to be done in sections so that the disruption will be minimized. We'll be able to have traffic flow rather than being done on an ad hoc basis where the city or the utilities have to put out an emergency as it happens. You can think of Main Street here as the backbone of the city, and it carries everything that we need to live safely, successfully, and comfortably. It carries water to us, it carries sewage away from us, and it carries electricity to all of our homes, and it carries all the fiber optic systems that are in the city that support Smith College, the city, and businesses. This Main Street, like most Main Streets in New England, was laid out in the 1800s, and there's actually brick and mortar sewer mains here that are carrying wastewater away from your homes and our businesses. We're going to need to update this critical infrastructure in the future, no matter what happens. Picture Main Street will allow the city to update and future-proof this critical piece of infrastructure in a way that we don't have to continually dig up and repair it. The state is providing the funds to remove the blacktop and allowing us access to the infrastructure below. And then they're putting it all back in a way that will keep it safe for generations to come.